feel the cushion.
You are in me. Simply Youth Ministry Podcast with
You don't
Doug
have to
Fields
wait
and
10
friends.
seconds.
Thumbs up, we can go. Hey everybody, Doug Fields here,
We got the thumbs up from the control booth.
and Matt and Josh and Jana. And Jana, we should start off by letting you know
Matt
that
McGill and friends.
Kimberly from Rancho Cucamonga just realized that I misspelled your name in my email to the podcast. Last week I read one, and I wasn't going to say anything, but McGill read over my shoulder and goes, "Oh, look at you did Jenna." And I was thinking, why do that? Why say it? No need for hurt. But she just wrote back, says, you cannot know how much that bugs me personally, as well as how much it disturbs the homeschool mom in me. So I apologize. So it was Jenna.
That's good. Good grammar in the homeschool.
Well, we're glad to have Jenna on the show. She's been a good addition.
Hey, we also got one from Josh. We got to talk about your printer because when you print things out, it is so small.
Well,
Anyway, Joe says, I'm super excited that you guys used my song. I know the contest was to write the intro, but are there any points for second place because his went to the outro?
Oh,
Yeah, he's getting a good prize.
You're getting a good prize, Joe,
Why
says
should
Andy
second place
Brazelton.
get a prize?
I think the second place is actually better than the first place one. That's why.
Well, yeah, but that's.
You know what? I got one in here,
No, it's
Matt,
actually-
that I don't know
Okay.
where it is, but this guy said, that's great that you guys did the podcast, song and stuff like that. My favorite, here it is. Chad Piatti, Elm Grove Baptist Church. To be honest, I was hoping that you guys would get such a pathetic response to the intro music contest that you would be forced to continue using Matt's grandmasterly intros.
Oh,
Thank you.
brother.
They were one of my
Great
favorite
answer.
parts of the show. It makes me very sad to see them go.
Look at
Also,
the
I
look
think
on
you
his
guys
face.
are soon going to grow tired of hearing the excerpt of the podcast song playing at the outro of every show. It's like one of those catchy songs that you sing along with for about a week, but after that, you never want to hear it again. I think the songs are great. In fact, props to the guy who made them, but they'll get old fast.
Yeah. I think he's got a good point, but what he doesn't know is we don't actually
I was
hear
just going to
those.
say, we don't listen
we
to
don't
it.
even hear the,
Yeah.
the song.
We won't get tired.
Do they
And
put
what
those
he
in
also doesn't
post-production?
know is that when Matt was making those intros is when he really didn't have a job. He was kind of doing the home church movement.
Yes.
And he had a lot of time on his hands.
There's
now
a lot
that
of
he's
time
got
and grammar in the
now
house
that he's
church.
like the future of Saddleback Church, he doesn't
Yeah.
really have much
Incredible
time.
demands now.
Yeah.
Man in demand.
Goodness.
We got a bunch of emails at podcast@simpleyouthministry.com, and
Ryan.
some of them are emails, some of them are small chapters. But there's a couple of things that hit me as I read them this week, the new ones. There is a tremendous amount of pain amongst our brothers and
Brethren.
sisters in youth ministry, and I know that when we come and we have a good time and we laugh, but we also have those times at meals when we're together and we share, some of the hurts in our life and some of the frustrations that we have at church and different things like that. And it just hit me. I'll just read a couple, and the reason I was thinking about this is because I was thinking there's probably some youth workers who listen to this alone who are struggling. And I know that times when I'm struggling or feeling insecure or inadequate or something, sometimes I think I'm the only one going through that feeling, and
You often are.
that's true. That's true. Anytime there's pain, I know that you can relate to it, though.
That's right.
No
Okay. What just happened?
I was waiting for Matt to make some joke about his mom dying or something like that, but I kind of paused giving you the softball.
You told me you wanted things under control.
You
so
reeled
I'm,
it in,
I'm
man.
reeling
No,
it
I
in
said
right
that
now.
last week. I wanted you to rein it in a there was no way that you did that at
I
all.
totally
so I
did.
thought, forget that.
I am so
Did you forget
real.
which way to...
We took
I do
away
both.
his intro,
Good
and
boy,
now
a
we're
little
taking
bit.
away. Well, what's going to be left?
Next week,
before
you're
You
not
might
gonna
as
have a
well neuter
microphone.
me.
Eunice McGill.
That's right.
This is from a guy. I don't know whether I'm gonna use his name or not. From
I'll use it.
Georgia.
Bob.
Jenna.
In the last email, I mentioned. It's pretty good.
Good.
In my last email, I mentioned that I've been given the position of youth pastor at my church. We went on our first overnight youth ministry trip 8 hours away, and while we were on that trip, my wife began to miscarry our first child. We've been trying to get pregnant for over a year. What made it even more difficult at the conference we were focused on, it was the sanctity of life, pro-life. It was very hard for me, but even more my wife. I shamefully did not take the time to tend to my wife like I should have while in the conference. My wife and I are fine. She did not seem mad or hurt by me at all, but I felt like I let her down on my husbandly responsibilities.
You did.
Yeah, I agree. But make it up.
For the sensitivity there. You did.
Make it up. That's all right.
Yeah, totally.
It's a missed opportunity.
Oh,
Apologize.
you gonna say differently?
No, did you just recognize it because it was reminded you so much of you, or what?
My wife's never miscarried, and I went on a retreat.
No, they.
Wow.
It sounds like she had a miscarriage on the retreat,
Right.
But he says I shamefully did not take the time to tend my wife.
Yeah,
He gets it. He understands.
And
what he does.
usually in reflection in those ministry moments, Kathy and I have talked about this a lot, and we talk about this a lot with other youth workers and spouses, is that sometimes when you're doing marriage and ministry together, it is so difficult to figure out when am I
Why are you laughing?
No, I'm like tearing up right now. But
Yeah.
Oh, so
I
you-
agree.
I
when
mean-
am I pastor? When am I husband? And things like that. And it's typically when you get back and you realize what a knucklehead you were, that I should have shown up in this moment.
They've invested a year into this, and yeah, it's a big deal for their family.
well,
So
we
what's the question, though? Is he saying that
How
do you balance
he actually
that?
says, how would you have handled the situation?
well,
And-
we
I
were
wonder-
we were in a very similar situation. It was the first time we were pregnant, and we miscarried right before leaving for a youth trip, and so we were in a very similar situation. And I would just say that, and it was definitely hard for our marriage. But I would just say the thing that we just kept remembering is that this was real life, and students were learning from us in the midst of that. And that, I don't know. I mean, we were just honest, and I felt like I cried. There were moments we went on a mission trip, and I felt like there were moments where sitting in my seat, flying to where we were going, I cried, and students were around me, but we just tried to be honest and
Yeah.
tried to be real about what was happening, and it wasn't easy, I don't think, but
But for that, it's you. I mean, that was your decision to go.
But even-
like your
Oh.
husband would have been there.
no, he was there. He was
That's
there.
what I
We were
mean.
together.
Yeah, it wasn't like he.
But that was happening before. This happens during. And now you may not always want to process that in front of your youth group
Right.
And-
during the midst of this happening.
And he might not have any help. If he's the only leader, we don't know what the deal is on this trip. But if he's the only leader,
Yeah.
and it's him and whatever, his kids there, it's him and his wife and all those kids, then you're really up against the wall.
Well, and as a guy, I'll
know.
tell you,
But that's, I was going to say.
his we just call him CF because those are his initials. And I would say to my friend CF, the Fields we went through 2 miscarriages, and I would say that both times I did not feel the pain as much as
Sure.
Kathy did, and that was difficult for me because I wanted it to. I could see how much it was hurting her.
you wanted it to hurt, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was totally bummed,
Right.
totally bummed, but
It's different.
I just took it really different, and he was probably in that situation and trying to balance how do I be tender in this moment and also be a youth pastor. And he also said, this was his first youth ministry trip, so he's going through a ton of emotions. But it was just a reminder to me how real life, this is, and just even watching Jana, your tears and going, okay, that's why you're not looking at the camera.
I don't mind letting you see.
But Josh is the only one that really looks at the camera.
That's right.
Anyway, but it's just a reminder. There's another email from Steve, Iowa City. He says he's basically in this church split, and he says, I'm not feeling challenged or fed by the church. I'm pouring out a lot of myself into the church, but I'm slowly burning out. I don't want to come to work anymore, but I want the church to become more than it is right now. I want to be somewhere that I feel encouraged and fed, but I'm responsible to this congregation, even though most of them will be dead in 5 years. He's talking about, he goes on longer about the church split, and the average age of the church is pretty old, and the younger ones left. But it was just, again, there's a bunch of these that were just sticking out and going, man, there are some of our friends are just in deep pain, and you're not alone. Kevin Massey, who is a good friend of ours, who's actually
Here
out
this
for the
week, yeah.
gathering. The gathering is happening tonight at my house. We're having dinner. I feel like I have a nose ring in right now, and I don't even have a nose ring. Do I have anything?
No.
Oh, gross.
I'm just itching my nose like crazy. But tonight we're having dinner at my house, dinner at the Fields' house, and then we hang out tomorrow and the next day. And these are our PDYM state mentors. And if you'd like to know more about it, go to pdymcommunity.com.
There you go.
All right. But anyway, Kevin wrote, and he was just talking about he's doing some restructuring, and he was talking about an overwhelming task, and I circled these words, but I am tired in my spirit. As says, I'm breaking the first rule of healthy youth ministry by not being healthy myself, but I've made a commitment to set ministry to the side, just do the routine stuff, and spend time refocusing on God.
That's great.
And I just thought that was a good little close to some of these, these tough. It's hard to put ministry to the side and to refocus on God and make relationships right and things like that. So, anyway, for those of you listening and you're going through some difficult times, more than just, how do I get more volunteers or grow my youth group? Although those are very difficult times as well. But you are tired in your spirit. Know that you are not alone.
We're here for you.
Yeah. All right. Are you excited about the gathering?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Are you, Jan?
Yeah.
Are you going to make an appearance,
fun.
Matt?
You
I
should
didn't
come
even
say
know it
hi.
was the gathering till yesterday.
Yeah?
Come tonight to
Why
dinner.
don't you come to
Can't
Bill's
come
house?
tonight,
All right.
I'll come to lunch tomorrow.
but maybe I'll come tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
50 state mentors.
We
They
have,
wanna
they
see
don't
Matt.
know this and they won't
Do
hear
we
this
have
because
a
this
state
isn't going
mentor
up
for
until
Costa
Thursday,
Rica?
right?
Thursday. At
Okay.
the earliest.
We're recording at a Tuesday right now and this won't go up till Thursday.
Oh,
And I know Andy's getting a lot of grief because, did I talk about this on this show that we recorded this?
No, you didn't.
I didn't talk
No,
about
you
it?
left that part out.
No, and he's fine with it too. Whatever.
okay. What are they getting? What
They
did
are
you say?
getting, we've got so many neat things coming from them, Jana. We've got publishers that are sending, we have all kinds of freebies and books, and I'm very excited to have did the boxes start rolling in yesterday?
Actually, I haven't seen any, honestly.
Really?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Youth Specialties sent a bunch of stuff, Group Publishing sent a bunch of stuff, Baker
That's
Bookhouse sent a bunch of stuff.
Did
Who
you
else?
coax any out of
Standard
Thank
Publishing.
you so much.
Walt Mueller sent. Did SYM give anything? A lot. Good.
A lot? That's awesome.
All right.
Oh.
You got that self-published book you could give away.
Oh.
Some guy sent a self-published book, which I'm not going to use his name. I don't even remember it. The titles were unbelievable, chapter titles. That's all that needs to be said.
Yeah.
I'm not going to repeat any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Matt Adams in.
These guys just gave me the look like I
Lafayette.
went over the edge or something.
No, you didn't go over
I was
the
waiting
edge.
for someone to say.
Whenever you have the hand resting on your shoulder,
You said
No,
this
that's a
creep.
love
That's
rest.
not- that's like
a
a-
love rest. That
No,
was a
well,
love rest.
I just never. I don't want people to be hurt. And a guy who wrote a book that looks like a great book, he just wrote a book on sex, and I have been asked to write.
Oh,
it.
so go ahead and
Well,
just throw
you-
me under the bus.
Yeah,
Well,
you kind of went down the
yeah.
path. I think we got to talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he asked
You
me
didn't
if
have
I
to
would
say
write an
what the
endorsement.
book was about, and who knows? This guy wouldn't have known what books get sent to you and all that.
All
But
right.
anyhow, yeah. If the
You-
guy wants to call me, I'll tell him which titles I thought were over the line and ridiculous.
Well, you were the only one. The rest of us. Gosh, people just fell off their stationary bike right there.
Well, that's why we got the
Stationary
fire
bike.
pod over there to.
Anyway, it was a book on sex, and he asked me if I would write an endorsement for it. And Jana knows this, that some of my really, really good friends have written books on sex, and I've chosen not to endorse them because it just,
And Jana's the only one who knows this.
well,
Wait, now what-
Jana
this
is
is
the
it.
one that has to respond to them and say, nah, Doug endorses a lot of books, but
But you won't. You intentionally won't do one on sex.
Josh will endorse it.
no,
Yeah,
here's the deal right now is that Saddleback with the stance that we're taking on HIV/AIDS and different things
yeah.
like that, the spotlight of the world is on Saddleback, and if somebody writes something about sex that's different than what Saddleback is talking about, and
Sure,
there's a
sure.
Doug Fields endorsement on it in Saddleback Church, I just don't want to get the church in.
It feels like messy
Yeah,
water.
and
Stay out.
you know what? I actually sent. You saw me when you were waiting in my
Yeah.
office. I was writing an endorsement for Chap Clark and Kara Powell's new book on
Yeah.
social justice, and I do endorsements all the time. It's just
well,
my
not
books on
all
sex.
the time, but
Yeah, don't say. Yeah.
come on.
Go ahead, send your
We-
endorsement in. He does them all the time.
As you can, but not all the time.
Spoken like a true person. Who has to
Spoken like the
respond.
person who has to say all the rejections. No, it's just that, let's be honest, okay? I can't read all the books. And
Right.
so I just can't endorse them if I'm not going to read
But
them.
leaders are learners, and as soon as you stop learning, you stop leading.
That's right. Now, we have a stack of books, and Chap and Cares was on top.
That's right.
And they've waited about 6 months.
And Jana cashed the check. Matt Adams,
Did you
that's
get
not
paid
true.
for
I was
No,
just going to say, for doing
no,
an endorsement?
No.
This is a great gig.
No.
Your
Oh,
book
gosh.
is
What's the
awesome.
That's the
book
ones
on?
he
Hand it
says
over.
yes to.
I have
What's
never-
their
kidding.
book on?
I have never got
just said.
paid for an
I
endorsement.
don't remember.
That, yeah, because that wouldn't be.
Nor have I
What about
ever.
that
Nor
deal
has
with
anybody
Nike
ever
you
offered.
had?
Deal with Nike.
Nike
ministry,
youth
just do
shoe.
it. Yeah. Matt Adams, Lafayette Bible Church, Louisiana. Can you please
Matt.
take the bell away from Matt?
It's
Oh,
gone. It's
we
hidden
did.
He
under
rang it
Jana's chair.
nonstop throughout episode 57.
And it
That
bothered
means,
you?
That means this is episode 58.
Why?
This is. And we couldn't take the Pepsi out of his hand, so if you hear clanging on the table.
Or the can.
But you know what? I did get an email this week wanting us to endorse something on the podcast, and they said your podcast is number 3, which I
Number 3 in what?
iTunes,
On the
I guess.
podcast list, yeah.
In all the world?
Number 3 in awesomeness.
That's what she said. That's
the
what the email
category
said.
of awesome. Well, congratulations to us. That's
If it's even
Yay.
true,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably not.
Our
Did they
ministry-
change the rankings yet? Is it still number of new subscriptions?
I think it's based on reviews.
Well, it used to be number of new subscriptions. I had that in writing from iTunes.
That's how they rank it in their 1 through 10. I think when you get in the selected section, it's based on reviews.
Based
so
on reviews.
newer podcasts would show up in there because more people would subscribe to a newer show, where ours is what we would call a maturing show.
Maturing.
All right.
I'm not sure it's matured yet.
Yeah.
Maybe still
Matt
someday.
says our ministry has grown to the point that we need to hire a second staff person.
Yay!
Is it best to determine what your greatest needs are and hire the best person to fill those needs? Or would you look for the kind of person that you want for the ministry and then create a job description that fits the unique things that person brings to the table? That's a very articulate and intelligent question.
Yeah. And there's a couple schools of thought, so I'm interested to see where you're going to take it, and then.
Therefore, Josh should answer first.
Yeah.
No. I think why don't you give your opinion, and then I'll just take.
And
the
then
other
you'll
one.
just agree with it.
I just said I would take the other one. This is an exercise in me countering something.
No,
so.
you're. Oh.
Okay, well, let's go around and say, what do you think I'm going to say?
Oh, what are you-
Hire a person that you like. Or
Wait, let's think about when he hired us. Okay.
Yeah,
Gosh, if we
a
go
person you like or a person you need. You're gonna say the person you like.
Okay, Janet?
The person you like.
I agree.
I
No
think you hire the
surprise,
person
right?
you need.
No.
A while back.
Yeah. The idea. I mean, the way that it's phrased, but the idea is that those wouldn't be different things. I mean, they don't have to be.
Ideally,
exclusive.
that's your dream, but it's really a good question because in many years I've had to hire a lot of people, and a lot of times you go, boy, this person would be a great fit for this, and you hire them and you go, gosh, I don't really like them. So to me, I'm not sure I learned this
Right.
right the first time. I think what I did probably early on in my ministry is I would hire people because they had a skill set, and then realizing, people can learn skills.
Right.
That I want to work with people that I like, and there's a community and a connectedness with. So Matt Adams, my personality would be I'm gonna hire somebody that I want to do ministry with. I like their heart. I like their relationship with God. I sense something fun about them, that I want to journey with them, and that if they have a skill set, that's great. Now,
But they need to have skills. I mean, you can't just hire the nice guy.
absolutely,
They
and I've
have
done
to
that
bring
too.
something to the table.
You have done that too.
Talking about here.
Oh.
What's going on here?
No,
Oh,
that's
God.
self-projection. That is self-projection.
No, there's a great
Self-projection's
book
not a
from
term,
Jim
by the
Collins
way.
called Good to Great, and it says get the right people on the bus and then send the bus in the right direction. It doesn't say hire for positions.
But how do you
and create-
define right person?
But you
Well,
have
they
they have to
define-
bring something to the table.
They would define the right person as a set of skills that you need, but also a person that you want to you want to be on your team. It also says get people off the bus that don't need to be on the bus. Get the wrong people off your team, and that's probably even more difficult than finding the right people.
Okay, I mean, if I look at you three, okay, and I have hired all three of you. Matt fired several times, but all three hired.
Continues to somehow come back.
I kind of made you hire
You're
me.
like a boomerang. You're fired. What are you doing here?
But the reality is, think about all the different jobs that you guys have done. I mean, Janet, you have.
Sure.
I've
you've-
done everything.
You've run our
Everything.
college ministry. You've run our high school ministry. You've run my life. You've organized the weekend at Saddleback, the all church weekend.
it's too
Matt's
bad.
done all kinds of things. Josh has done all kinds of things. Is that when you're moving? Let's use your bus analogy. When the
Right.
bus is moving, sometimes people have to switch seats, and
Absolutely.
they can do that.
Too bad.
And
some
as
people would've
long
gone
as
there.
I'm driving the bus, everything's great.
That's right.
You
And I'll
know,
be in the back of the bus.
there's definitely lots of things that need to come into play with this. I mean, it's not an either or. It's definitely a continuum. You know, if you get somebody who's your good buddy so much at the expense of having no skills, then you're in trouble. If you get somebody who's a total perfect fit with skills wise, but not you like hanging out with them, then that's trouble too. But part of it that needs to go into it is the size of your team. If it's you and one other person, then it's really important for you guys to get along. I mean, you're the
Sure.
dynamic duo or whatever. I think that Jim Collins, there's no company in the world out there that's wanting to go from good to great of two people, and if
Right,
there is a
right.
company of two people, they're not reading management books. So, when it gets to be a little bit bigger of an organization, these things come into play. If you get somebody who's too specialized, then you're right. When the time is that job's not there, that seat on the bus isn't there, that person can't move. So when you have somebody that fits a role that's too specific and they can't learn the new skills to do something else, then they're in trouble. So
Yeah.
so there's definitely a lot of things. Hopefully what you need. The greatest thing is when you put those things together. The difficult thing to avoid, a question like this, it's better to talk about what to avoid, really, because there's really no, it's kind of hard to say do this and do that and have a specific answer. But you really, really want to avoid getting somebody who's just like you. I mean, I think that would be the biggest mistake, is if you get somebody that's just like you, then they're not going to want to do the things that you don't want to do. And there's going to be a constant struggle that way as two people are trying to do the same thing.
That's good.
But
Well, and chemistry's huge. And before Josh, how long have you been here now, Josh?
We're in our fourth year, I think.
Fourth year.
Three and something. Yeah.
Okay. So before Josh came around, when the three of us, Jan and me and Matt, we had said at different times, give us any job. If we can do it together, whether it be, start a church, take a different area of the ministry, you feel like we know what our gifts are, we know what our strengths are, we know what our weaknesses are. Give us anything, we can make it happen. And
Totally.
and that ideally, I think, when I look at Matt's question here, I go, find somebody that you like working with, but also you hire somebody that you're not afraid to fire. That
Yeah.
if you hire all of a sudden a cousin or a best friend or something
Yeah.
like that, and you can't
Right.
fire them, then that's tough. And managing is another big thing. You have to wait till my book comes out.
You mean our book comes out on that?
Great
I'll let an
manager.
endorsement for it.
Yeah.
We won't be paying you.
Yeah.
I'll ask for my check.
Yeah, and the chuckling on that, for those that might think that's too insider, is I'm not a very good manager. So
It's not that you're not good, you just don't like it, so therefore you
Well,
become.
But you surround yourself with people who can manage and who are capable of it.
well, years ago I used to have to do that, but then when Jan and Matt came around, they're better than me. I went, okay,
Absolutely.
great, I'll get out of the way. Hey, Josh, you asked people to evaluate the PDYM website, and we got one. Alex wrote in.
Thanks, Alex.
And he says, I forgot the name of PDYM community. So I went on and I Googled Doug Fields, which brought me to a dilemma. I found PDYM, Simply Youth Ministry, and Youth Specialties, all of which are great resources.
Yes,
But I did not know which one I was supposed to evaluate.
well,
So my guess, he says, is why don't you combine all the websites?
yeah.
DougFields.com.
Ooh, and it could have.
Little portal.
Well, it's pdymcommunity.com, and we're actually in the process of kind of looking at some ways to improve it. We've got some great stuff out there that is happening. And so, yeah, if you can go there.
We're launching
check
it to
out.
our gathering.
Yeah,
this
we're going
week.
to talk to our
Have
gathering
you seen
about
it
it
yet,
this week.
Miguel?
No.
Have you seen it, Jack?
Yeah.
You don't like it?
I think there needs to be a few more tweaks.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was.
Well, what's great about it is it's totally ours, so we can make changes. Like you wrote today and said, "Hey, I'd love da 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 da," and my reply
What did he want to
said,
change?
There was
Just kidding.
a new section he wanted created. What's great is I was able to create that section,
and I
so-
wanted to edit some of the copy.
because I
Of
think I
course.
wrote it.
No surprise.
No, but I mean, I added that section and hit reply and said it's done.
Yeah.
So instead of having to go through red tape and we just did it.
Yeah.
So that's fun. So go to pdymcommunity.com. That's the old site. Tell us what you think about that, how we can make it better, and then we'll launch this.
Because the new site is kind of a blog.
Yeah, it's a little more of a hybrid blog, interactive comments. It's going to enable all of our state mentors to post their own articles, their own
And
thoughts.
this is an offline discussion here.
Yeah.
We gotta forget about it.
Yeah.
If maybe what we need to do, if we can't get the permission for this new site to link with currently, we put a link to our blog
Most
on a
definitely.
PDYM community,
Most
so people can.
Oh, I'm sure they'll like that.
Yeah. All
Speaking
right.
of you editing things,
Yeah.
I sent something to a new volunteer that's
Really?
gonna be helping me with something.
Are we having this conversation
And-
right now?
We are. This is interesting
Okay.
to me.
We'll be the judges.
Yeah, these people are listening too.
She's the manager.
I would have been done by now. But
Okay.
anyhow, so she read this first draft of the document, and she's like nuts and bolts, wants task list, just wants to grind through stuff, and she's like, yeah. So, do you have any problems if I edit some of your stuff? And I just said that me and Grammar weren't very good friends.
Grammar and I.
Matt has had a history of. I think when Matt first started working for me, he brought something in, and I had.
No,
read-
it got mailed out.
I had.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
it did.
Yeah, 3 different volunteers came to you. I had a quarter sheet postcard that had 3 spelling errors on it.
Oh wow.
It was
3, that's like not very many for
for a postcard.
your stuff?
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, you didn't even talk to me the day you got it, and you talked to me the day afterwards. And you said if I would have seen you yesterday, this conversation would have been. I was really sad yesterday that this went out. And then ever since then, I've adopted a strong value for spelling.
So he's a great manager, not a good speller.
Exactly.
Well, see, that was management right there.
That was you should write a book.
Dude.
That would
Let me
be-
show you how to manage
Yeah.
your typos. This is from Rob King,
Hi, Rob.
which, by the way, my best friend growing up in the world was Robert King.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
May he rest in
Roberto?
peace.
No, he's alive. He
Okay.
actually, he's like
What?
48 years old and just got married July 7th.
Oh, congratulations.
First
Did
time.
you do the wedding?
No, they went to Vegas and did a 7707.
Oh.
Dude, Francis Chan's gonna be at the student leadership conference.
Wait, what are you doing?
He's looking at pdymcommunity.com.
It looks great, guys.
That's not even the new one.
Oh.
You sucker.
Oh,
All right. So anyhow,
Rob
Robert
says,
King-
"What are the steps to
good
doing
Roberto. Dang it, I can't roll my R's.
a
Or
youth
spell.
funeral?
Whoa.
I need to know
Why do you want
what
us
to do
keep
from the
going?
moment you hear about it all the way through the funeral itself."
Repeat that. Jana was squawking.
He wants to know how you do a funeral for a teenager, and what are the steps? What are some of the key things that you say in the service? He says, "P.S. I'm watching the podcast too much because Doug was in my dream last night teaching us about youth
Whoa.
ministry. He had a comb over and a pot belly, and I thought to myself in the dream, he looks terrible, but he still got it."
we say the same thing every day.
Yeah, the pot belly is
A little
accurate.
too close to home.
Yeah, well, the comb over too. So what's steps? Well, for me, the moment I hear about it, I'm going to make a phone call to the family. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to return later that night, maybe with some other people, some volunteers or some teenagers. I think one of the things that I've found in those situations like that is anything you can do to help, because people, everybody says, hey, if there's anything you need, call. Well, people are not going to call.
Not a chance.
So that's when you're in their house for a while and you sense that they need more ice, and you just leave and go get more ice or drinks or whatever way you can serve the family during that immediate crisis. A lot of times you just need to just sit and be in their presence. Eventually, when it's coming time to prepare the funeral service, my line to the family is, what is the best way to tell his story, and just get them talking about.
Just listen.
Yeah, get them talking about character qualities and stories, and because really what you're doing in that moment is, when you're giving the funeral, you're really affirming the family. You're talking about the teenager's character. You're talking about the parent's contribution to his life. You're talking about the friendships. I mean, it's a time of affirmation, but it's also a time where it's a great opportunity to present the gospel.
How would you shift that question if the kid was total train wreck of a life? Either spiritually not a believer, or just got in trouble all the time, and how would you phrase that if it's obvious that the kid was the black sheep of whatever that family is?
Yeah. Well, I will say that if you can do an easy funeral is when somebody's a believer. I mean, that just makes it an easier funeral. If somebody isn't, or they've had a pretty chaotic life, that makes it more difficult. I mean, I'm still trying to find out what is the great in that kid.
What did you appreciate about Bobby?
And be honest. Say, hey, nobody's going to be surprised here to say that Joe had the last couple of years of his life were tough, and he was searching for life, and there was an emptiness that he had that he was trying to fill. His parents have shared some stories with me. Nobody here is going to be surprised by that. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that emptiness for a second, and I would probably transition that into a gospel message. But it's a great opportunity to present the gospel, because not very many teenagers ever stop, especially non-church teenagers, which they will show up to church for this. Not many of them stop and go, boy, is there life after death?
Right.
What is the meaning of life, and why am I here, and what does my life have to offer? What do you guys think?
Well, to me, this is a chance for a youth worker to really step up and make a difference in the community. I think we get the reputation for being the men and women or whatever who are charismatic and have games and have fun. And this is a chance to show them a much deeper spiritual side as well. I mean, a mature, caring adult. And so I think this presents a great opportunity as well to demonstrate the minister that you are, not just whatever other facets of ministry you might have. But here's the thing that I would say is empathize. I don't think we're very good at this. I think we don't really hurt like they hurt. Like if I was a dad who had lost a son, and I look at that dad and I'm like, well, that is tough. But if I empathize with them, my spirit is crushed. The thought of even losing a son or losing a parent or what I'm doing, I just think we need to empathize more, and that will help your response and everything that you do. Take nothing lightly. Don't be cavalier at all, because this is the most serious moment of their life. The most impactful moment of their life, probably right there, and you can't treat it without it hurting you as well. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who got kicked out of his church, who was fired, and I thought, oh man, that's a rough spot, and then I didn't think about it again. That was it. It was on my radar and off. And you hear a story about, oh yeah, we had a miscarriage, and I'm like, oh, that is so bad. I'm so sorry for you.
Yep.
And then it's off my radar. I mean, I'm on to my next thing. I got a task list and kids and whatever. But in this situation, I think, and in more situations, we need to stop and hurt and cry and be present and personalize it.
So do this. Go the next step. If you're not a person who typically does empathize with other people, how do you do that? How do you go against, it's not necessarily weakness. It's just a spot. It's just not. Right. It doesn't come natural.
It's not a
for
wiring.
And so what?
It's not how you're wired.
Oh,
it's
I
not
think it's not a winery. I was like, well, I was ready for a grape analogy. But so what do you?
I would say the first thing is you stop everything. Nothing is more important than that family and that moment, and you spend extra time working on the talk, and you spend extra time with the family, and you tell their story, and you share their story, and you tell your volunteers about it, and you. I don't know. To me, that's the most. Everything else changes that week, and you focus on this family, and you minister to them, nothing else is more important. Clear everything else out of
Well,
it.
and they remember that forever.
Absolutely.
You know, I did a funeral of a boy who was killed in a car accident, and every time I see that dad, he hugs me like it was a week ago.
Wow.
Well, and when we, as we're building our student zone, this guy, I mean, he took a huge chunk of his savings, and he said, I wanted to go to this. You're,
Amazing.
what you did at that funeral. I mean, he was very, very
Right,
thankful.
right.
I mean, I think when my dad died, 5 years ago, there's two people I remember distinctly. Matt was at our kitchen table nonstop, had his computer and scanner.
Not eating.
Not even. No.
It was unusual. He was
But
there.
he was taking all of
And then
all of our
pictures.
family photos, and he was scanning them. And I mean, Matt was there
That's
for
awesome.
hours and hours and hours. And Steve Rutenbar, who went to the funeral home and helped me choose a casket. And you're just numb at that point because you got to make these decisions, and they're showing you 1,000 caskets, and
How about Rutenbar getting a deal for you?
yeah,
He's negotiating.
he
for
did.
you.
He
That's
struck a deal for an
hilarious.
accountant, which my dad was an accountant, and I told him he would have loved the fact that he got him a deal.
Yeah.
But plus 5 years later, now there's a bunch of people, and I'm sure we saved all the cards, and
Yeah.
people were kind to my mom and my family. But I remember Matt and I remember Steve
Yeah.
because they went the extra mile. Matt never left the house, and Steve went with me to tough places. So.
Right.
Those are the times, those are the opportunities that you have to really be Christ in flesh when something like that happens in a church. And if you're a young youth worker and it hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen.
will.
And
Absolutely.
when this guy Rob writes in, I don't know if it's already happened or if he just knows it's inevitable, it's going to happen. So let me ask the question.
Yeah. Well, I think back to a couple things we were talking about earlier. I think if you're a person who doesn't naturally feel empathetic for others, when you encounter somebody else's pain, you got to stop everything like you're saying. But I think the best thing for you to do is to stop and think about what's the most painful thing you've ever gone to, because you'll never
Right.
you'll never be able to identify. I mean, if you lose a son and somebody else loses a son, you know what? Those are very similar, but it's still a totally different experience. I mean, you still can't
Right,
look that person
right.
in the eye and say, I understand everything you're going through. I mean, so no two pains are ever exactly identical.
Right.
And maybe you haven't had a lot of pain in your life. I mean, maybe the worst pain you've ever had was getting a bad grade in school, which sounds silly in a conversation like this, but you got to go somewhere.
Especially since he was homeschooled.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
But you
Graduate
got to
soccer
go
class.
to whatever. If someone's experiencing loss, you got to go to a place where did I have the worst loss ever, to try and build that bridge, to have that empathy. I think on the practical side with the funeral stuff, open sharing, man, especially with a high school or a
Yeah.
junior high
Okay,
wedding.
so you're talking when you say open
Yeah, the
sharing, you're saying
service.
at the actual
yeah, now I'm
service.
switching gears to real practical.
Yeah, so if Rob is in charge of putting the service order together, what you're
Yeah.
saying, forget the open sharing, try to have some defined
Well, and if the
sharing.
parents say, "Man, it'd be just great to let it, the kids express themselves and say whatever they want," and you say, "Yeah," because you got to give the family whatever they want. You
Right.
got to minister to them, but it's possible to direct it and say, I think that's a great idea. Are there a couple kids that could say something? Let's have them put it in writing. And here's the reason why: emotions are running high. They don't think through what they're going to say. Speaking in front of an audience is hard. Sometimes they say things that are really awkward, really wrong, really, things that shouldn't be said.
Yeah.
You can direct it a little bit.
When you can stand close by and put your arm on their shoulder and
Yeah.
kind of coax them off the mic too. You can have them write it down. I mean, there's ways to. If you're gonna
I
do
talked to
open mic-
family out of that one time and just said, what if we provided every kid that comes with a sheet of paper,
Yeah,
a
that's
nice
great.
sheet of paper that can go in a book, and we'll take some time during the service for them to write a letter about what they appreciated about your son.
Exactly.
And to me, that would be a greater gift. If one of my kids died, I'd rather have that as a gift than them spontaneously,
Right.
crying
Yeah.
into a microphone. But they're not easy.
Yeah.
They're not easy to do, Rob, if you haven't done one before. But they are once you've done one, and I think once you've experienced death yourself in a
Yeah.
close family environment, it becomes a lot easier because you see the opportunity that you have for ministry. I might disagree a little bit, Matt, maybe in terms of think of a painful place. That I don't know. Maybe we're thinking about it different because it feels a little like a forced empathy. But when Jana hears a story about the miscarriage and her eyes tear up, there is a connected when you really are ministering to people and you see their pain. There's I've said I have no idea what it feels like to be in your shoes, and I'm sorry I don't know, but I just can't imagine that it's a good spot.
Right.
I can feel empathy just watching somebody hurt.
Right. But not everybody goes there. And that's what Josh was talking about.
Yeah.
Josh was talking about.
And that maybe I'm more empathetic than I think
Then
I
you
am.
give yourself
Yeah.
credit for it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't naturally think of loss that you've had? I'm not saying you bring it up.
No, but I can.
Because we have friends like
but
that.
you know me. I mean, I can listen to a youth worker share a story, and I get teary-eyed listening to him.
Right.
And I don't have to. In the back of my mind, I'm not going, "Oh, that one time a bunch of youth workers jumped on me and I crushed my rib." I don't have to go to a spot of that.
But there is a moment when you read that earlier email, just talking about the youth worker who doesn't want to go to church and who's on spiritual burnout, and I'm going in my heart going, I've been in that exact same place.
Yeah.
Not this week, but a couple weeks ago. No. And I mean, I can just relate. So the relatability factor, maybe that's different than empathy, but I mean, I think it's just strong emotion.
Yeah. It's thinking about the other person.
I think really the bottom line is to really care about it. Don't pass over it. Don't gloss over it. Don't give it a moment's thought. Give it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Well, what do
and
you
the
think-
church is
Walk in their
expecting you to
shoes.
respond in this moment too.
Absolutely.
If it's a teenager, doesn't matter who they're connected to, they're expecting you to respond. Now, the pastor might wind up the parents might want the pastor,
Right.
senior pastor, to do the funeral, but everybody's expecting you to have a presence there and you to be there. And I cut you off, Jan. Sorry.
No, I just think the essence of empathy is that you figure out how to relate to their pain. Like that's the whole essence of empathy,
That's
you
what it
know.
is, yeah.
So I think like whatever it is that takes you to however you get to that place of understanding a little bit of what they're going through, and then responding to that is
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
This is we're gonna have to we'll take one more because we got to get going. We have our PDYM gathering, so this is gonna be a little bit of a shorter show. And
For the first time in history,
Matt
we might
got
be on
here
an
late
hour.
today, and so we have to get going. So send your questions in to
Yeah.
Podcast.
Podcast at simply.
now. How are we gonna get them?
yeah. What's going to happen?
Well,
going to-
forward, in
Josh's going to
it's
Australia.
Crazy. They have email there,
They do.
and I will just email them on. No problem.
Okay. Well, we
Well, I
need
could-
to then decide offline.
But you have
whether
a
we're
hard
gonna
time
do
getting them
show.
to us when we're in the same
Wait,
city.
the last three
That's
shows
true.
I have
So
been
that's
flawless.
the question, not the fact that they don't have email.
Yeah, that's true. So
Yeah.
we need to decide offline. Are we going to do a show when Josh is in Australia?
yeah,
Josh
sure.
is teaching PDYM,
PDYM first 2 years.
first 2 years youth ministry,
MySpace lecture.
a MySpace
and,
lecture.
And actually, I'm doing PDYM a couple more times too.
Do they not have Facebook yet down in Australia?
Yeah, no, they don't. Only in America.
So,
Yeah, it could apply to Facebook.
just kidding.
All right. Why don't
That's
you
funny.
guys,
Do
do you
they
guys want to just
actually-
poke each other on the Facebook? Okay.
Ooh, wait! You just made a
Oh.
reference. Wow,
I'm just.
He did
last week too, though. So
explain it,
somehow
but
he.
this is impressive. If you use the word
I'm-
friend request, I'm going to be
I'm
impressed.
very, very much up on
So
Facebook
I got
now
this
that
friend
I
request.
now that I have a student at college.
You should check.
Actually, a
up
child at college, a student at college. I'm not actually sure she is a student. I've been in my church for 2.5 years in Pittsburgh. It says
Heyo.
I've changed the name to protect the innocent. I'm the student and worship pastor. The church elders have decided that the church can no longer afford the position. I get one of these. I read one of these every week. It seems like churches going, we can't afford the position anymore.
It's a recession.
They have elected
Housing
to
market.
pay
It's a
me
worship pastor market.
till the end of the year.
Not enough empathy.
It's tough because I can't plan anything long term, and I feel I'm cheating the kids because of that. Should I go ahead and step down and let the volunteers take over, or should I hang on? The one factor is that my wife and I are adopting, and we cannot leave until the adoption is final around the end of November. I await your sarcastic wisdom and And maybe something from Matt, too.
They've pegged us. Wow. All right. What do you
See,
think?
sarcastic wisdom from you guys, or regular wisdom
Or
from
just
me.
plain wisdom?
No.
Which would you rather have? They're both wisdom.
I'd rather have wisdom from above.
Why go?
Well, he says, I can't plan long term. I feel like I'm cheating the. Should I step down or let the volunteers take over, or should I hang on? I would say you hang on and you prepare the volunteers to win.
I say, don't stop, believe it.
He's relating right there.
Yeah.
He's empathizing with this guy.
Yeah, I think you can hang on. You hang on there and you encourage the volunteers. You make sure they are set up to win, as any youth worker ought to be doing, is making sure that if he or she dropped dead or were fired or something, that the ministry would continue, that the volunteers are going to be there longer than he or she is going to be. And
if you leave right now, I mean, what happens if things turn around in January or December, and then they don't want to eliminate the position, or there's some unexpected gifts, or tithes are up, or something? I don't think you jump the ship until they kick you out.
I agree.
Yeah, I think you use your time to empower volunteers and set up your ministry to run without you.
And if
I
you need
think
help
try
with
and
that,
cause a church split.
Take 100 people
see,
with you.
that's sarcastic wisdom.
Thank you.
He actually needed to.
There
write
is
that
no
to you.
wisdom in that.
No, that's true.
That's just pure
That's true.
awesome
Just sarcasm.
sarcasm.
All right,
That was good.
46-minute show. Now,
That's not bad.
podcast at simpleyouthministry.com.
Yeah.
We're going to be at the
That's the
gathering for the next 3 days. Josh is going to be in Australia.
Yes. G'day.
And anything
And
else?
New Zealand.
And Auckland, New Zealand.
Any
Yeah.
Andy? We need to say anything? The speaking book. I
Anybody
got the
check
first
out any
copy.
sweet websites lately?
I got the first speaking copy.
Can we eBay that?
Ooh.
No. Can we
Oh,
eBay it?
Look at that. No.
I
First
would like-
copy of what?
Speaking of-
teenagers.
The
Brand
new,
new
the new
book.
book came out.
Oh.
I wrote this book a while ago.
It's called Management Styles 101.
Is this the one with the longest subtitle known to mankind?
How to think about, create, and deliver effective messages.
Yes.
National Youth Ministry Convention does have a early bird cutoff, I think, coming up pretty soon.
The National Youth Ministry Convention.
So if you want to
Group and Simply Youth Ministries.
Yes.
One in Ohio, Cincinnati, in February. There's an early bird.
and we're all going to be there except Matt, who's
No,
probably
Matt's
gonna
going to
have
go. I would
a-
like Matt to go.
would
Tony
like-
Dungy's going to be there. Wouldn't you like to meet Tony
How
Dungy?
cool is that?
Who's
gonna
that?
be?
Oh,
I was
yeah,
thinking
the
about
coach.
that. Are you
Tony
kind of
Dungy.
excited to
And they're
like?
2-0.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
good.
It's a
Yeah.
good game I was thinking.
It was awesome.
Hey, you know what? Here's the funny thing about the group.
I don't need Tony Dungy
The group
to
and
go.
Simply
I
Youth
would go
Ministry.
just to see you
We
guys.
wanted Tony Dungy to speak last year when the convention was in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
but his honorarium was kind of high, and we said no, it's too much.
Is it double now?
And then they won the Super Bowl. And we were in Indianapolis,
Oh,
and they won the
wow.
Super Bowl the
Yeah,
week
yeah.
before. We would have had him the week after he won the Super Bowl.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, even
That
if the
is
guy
crazy.
loses the Super Bowl, it's still awesome to have him speak.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
He's great. He's a
Oh,
great guy. And his
cannot
book right
wait.
now is number 3 on the New York Times bestseller.
Did his honorarium go up after he won the Super
I
Bowl?
actually don't know what his honorarium is.
But we
Why
know
not?
we
But
got
did it
him.
go
He's
up?
gonna be there.
Oh, I'm
Of
sure.
course.
Yeah.
Super Bowl championship coach.
I would imagine.
He's a
There's a
great
little thing
man,
called
though.
supply and
Great
demand.
heart.
Hey, there was a thing last week where, speaking of supply and demand, we said, hey, send us how
Wait
you
a minute.
measure in success.
Yes.
We got one email from that,
Oh.
and it was based on numbers.
Oh
So
All right.
So do we
So
want to...
how do you measure success?
he measured it by numbers. It was a nice email. He did a very, very nice job.
Well, send it in if you get a chance next week.
People are just listening to last week's this week.
That's
so.
true.
That's true. They just got it. That's true.
All right, Andy, let's see if we can get this podcast up sometime before the rapture. Thanks, you guys. Blessings.
Bye.
Now listen to this fine outro music.
And
We're cutting now.